Welcome back here to Andersen Acres. We're in the kitchen again today, and someone had asked if I could show them how to make bread without using a bread maker to mix it. So that's what we're going to do this morning. The very first thing you want to do is gather your ingredients. So I have just the ingredients for basic white bread. If you want the recipe, I do detail the recipe in my first video where I use the bread maker and teach you how to make your bread. So if we're going to make it by hand, we typically will use a traditional yeast instead of a bread machine or quick rise. You can use quick rise. If you're going to use quick rise, you can skip the step I'm about to do and just mix all your ingredients in the bowl. But I thought I would show you using traditional yeast. So you want to take your water. It should be warm. It should not be hot. If it's hot enough to make your finger uncomfortable, then it is too hot for your yeast. It'll kill the yeast. But too cold and your yeast won't activate. So you want to take your sugar, sprinkle your sugar in. I sprinkle lightly because I don't like to mix things if I don't have to. So I sprinkle lightly so that the sugar dissolves. Sprinkle that into your water. So I've got 1 cup of water and 1 tablespoon of sugar. Then you want to take your yeast. You just let the sugar dissolve a minute. Do not add salt to this, just sugar and water. You can also use honey if you're not using sugar, whatever your sweetener is. You just want to put that in your water. You do not want to do the salt. So that looks like it's dissolved pretty well, so you sprinkle your traditional yeast on it. Some of it will sink, some of it will not. It doesn't really matter if it sinks or floats. You don't have to mix this. You can if you want. You certainly don't have to. Now I have this little bumblebee timer, and I like to set him for 5 minutes. It'll usually activate faster than that, but it's good to set your timer. Now set that aside. Get your bowl with 3 cups of flour. At this point, because your hands are going to start to get dirty, I like to remove any jewelry, so I will take off my loom band bracelet, and I will take off my family ring. Set those aside just because I am going to be using only my hands to mix. So I have 3 cups of flour. Into my 3 cups of flour, I will add my 1 teaspoon of salt. Mix that up. This is a good time to add any of your herbs and spices. Add all of your dry ingredients together. I also have my butter on the side here. I will add that when I add the water. And there's still a little bit of salt left in this bowl that I didn't dump. So there we go. So mix it up nice and even. Now you do not have to use a wooden spoon. You can. I don't use a wooden spoon because it's going to get messy anyway. You're going to have to use your hands. And then I just like to kind of smooth things out, make a little divot. And we wait our few minutes for the yeast to activate. This is also a good way to find out if your yeast is still good. So I'm not going to make you wait the entire 5 minutes, so we'll come back in just a minute. So it has been 5 minutes. Our yeast has dissolved. It should have a frothy look to it, so you should see that it's no longer individual grains. It should have mostly dissolved into the water. It should have a little bit of texture to it. It should have puffed up in the water. So I can see that it has, if I look into the water, it has dissolved. So what you do is you take your butter. You can melt this if you like. I don't bother because I'm going to get my hands in there in a second anyway. Your 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter. Add your yeast and your water and your sugar. Again, I don't care if I get my hand in here because you're going to do it in a second anyway. So your yeast and your sugar is all in here, nicely dissolved. And now you just want to start mixing everything together. You're going to have to squish that butter. I just use my hands. It's not really that big a deal. It only takes a minute to firm up. So I just use my hands. Just get in there and you start mixing it around. It's a good idea to have a little bit of flour and water off to the side. So I just have maybe a 1/4 cup of water sitting nearby, and I've got about 3/4 of a cup of flour. I'm probably not going to need it, but when you're kneading, you might need a little flour just if your dough is too sticky. If your dough turns out to be a little bit dry, you may need a tablespoon or so of water. So it's good to have those right on hand because, like I said, your hands are going to get sticky and gross here. So you don't want to have to run all over the kitchen and look for your flour and your water and try to grab things with hands that are covered in goo, because they are covered in goo. If you look at that, I mean, you can see dough starting to form, but it takes a minute. So this is just a very loose dough right now, and we're just going to keep squeezing the flour into it. And it doesn't take very long. Like you can see, it's already dough-ish. Use that dough to kind of scrape, kind of rub the stuff off your fingers. You're going to have maybe some butter between your fingers. You want to get that into the dough. So you just want to take that off. But it's not really that big a deal. It's just bread dough. So at this point, I know it's not all incorporated, but that's okay. I don't have any loose water. If your liquid ingredients are still loose, you're going to want to mix it a little bit more. But since I don't have that, I'm actually going to turn this out onto my trusty silicone mat. Sorry for blocking the camera there. I just want to get all this. So now you're just going to keep, it's a little easier to incorporate when you're on a flat surface, because you can start to do what we call kneading. So I'm just going to start kneading now. It's not fully incorporated, and that's okay. So when you knead your basic kneading, give your dough a push. Okay? Fold it towards you and then press away from you. Quarter turn. Flatten it again. Pull towards you. And you just quarter turn, fold and push. Fold, push. Fold, push. And every once in a while you pick up these, put them on top of your dough. And you just keep doing the folding and the pushing. This can take 5 to 10 minutes. All right, you just keep doing this. You see I'm slowly incorporating the little bits of flour, little bits of dough that are around. And yeah, sometimes you want to pick them up and actually put them into your dough. Pull them off your hands. Your hands get cleaner as you go. Okay, so you just want to keep doing that over and over again. I'm just getting some of the stuff off my fingers here. And I'm just going to keep doing that. We'll come back in a couple of minutes so you can see what it looks like. I'm not going to make you watch me knead for 10 minutes. So I've been kneading for a few minutes now, probably close to 10 minutes. Sometimes you can get away with 5 minutes of kneading, but really 10 is better. And you can see my hands are pretty clean. I've got a little bit here and there, but my hands have come pretty clean. No, I have not washed them. It's just from kneading the dough and moving your hands over it and through it just to get any residue off. So that residue incorporates into the dough. So when you're finished kneading, your dough should have a pretty smooth appearance. Not perfectly smooth. You may have a little bit of pulling and cracking from the kneading itself, but you shouldn't have any chunks of anything. So if you look at my dough, I don't have any bits of stuff. So I don't have little bits of unincorporated flour. There's no chunks of butter that haven't been worked into the dough. So you want to make sure all of your ingredients are fully incorporated. And again, kneading is just fold it over towards you, push it away with the heel of your hand, quarter turn. Pull it towards you, push, quarter turn. And you just do that 5 to 10 minutes. You end up with a nice, smooth little ball of dough. I did not have to add any water or flour because my proportions were correct. Depending on the humidity where you are, you may have to add water or flour because humidity does change your dough. So now you're ready to set it aside for its first rise. You want to take a bowl, fresh clean bowl. I do not want to use this bowl that has all the flour and residue. Instead, I want to use this fresh clean bowl. So you want to put a little drizzle of oil, not much. If you put more than a teaspoon in a bowl this size, that's too much. So just a little drizzle. I use vegetable oil. You can use canola or whatever you have. It's just a little bit of oil. You want to take your dough, put it smooth side down and just kind of rub it on there. Then you want to flip it over and rub it so that you get the oil up the sides. You do want to rotate your dough a few times just to make sure it's covered in the oil. That'll help it rise. It helps keep the moisture in because you don't want it to dry out. So you just do that a few times, and then you put it smooth side up or smoothest side up, and you're ready to set it aside in the microwave. I put it in the microwave. You don't have to. I don't microwave my dough. I just let it sit there to rise. You can cover it with a tea towel and put it on top of your television or on top of your stove if you like. I just leave it uncovered and put it in the microwave. That works best for me. You have to do what works best for you. Once that's done rising, you can do whatever you like with it. You can follow the directions in my first video and just turn this into white bread. You could make breadsticks. You can do whatever you like. Today I'm probably turning this into breadsticks because it is past night here at Andersen Acres. So thanks for watching. Tune in again for more baking tutorials and recipes. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.